Hey again, guys, this is Paul bringing you another video on my 1/18 scale diecast collection. And today's video is about a few of the cars that I've modified or customized in some way. And some have been changed a little bit more than others. But this video will give you just a quick overview of each one and what I did to it, and maybe a little history about the car itself. And most of these, if not all of them, I have some personal level of interaction with in real life with a real car that's represented by the model. So I'll give you a little more details on that for each car. Okay, so what we have here is a Maisto, I believe 2006 E60 BMW M5. This car was famous in real life or known for having a V10 engine. I think it was 5 liters, 500 horsepower. I actually owned this car. It's the one and only car so far that I've ever done a cross-country trip. I drove from California to New Jersey in this car when I relocated about 10 years ago. The car was only a couple of years old at that time. I had a 2008, but it looked very similar to this car. Despite not really looking like it's been modified much, of all these cars that I've customized in some way, this one probably took the most time, simply because it started out as a MotoGP safety car, meaning it had a bunch of stripes and livery and graphics that were actually tampo decal, they call it. It was basically painted onto the paint of the car, and I had to use nail polish to slowly, like using Q-tips, wipe off that paint, and it took quite a while, and obviously you have to be careful not to damage the finish of this car, the white itself. You can see little traces here where it maybe went through a little too much, but overall it turned out really good, and there's not too many remnants of it. You can see on the roof, the sunroof, where the light bar was mounted. I ended up having to I had to paint it white and then fill in the holes there, which I couldn't quite get perfect. But my car in real life was white over black interior, looked just like this. On the inside, it's hard to see when it's so dark, but my interior was exactly like this. It had the aluminum trim interior. And then the motor itself, the V10 engine, looked just like that on this car. And was an awesome car, one of the fastest cars I've owned. They say without the limiter they were capable of 200 miles an hour top speed, and I wouldn't doubt it. It was very fast, and not a very reliable car in the long term. I got rid of mine before it had any significant issues, but I do miss it sometimes. It was a cool car. Next up is the 2014 LaFerrari by Maisto, and this particular diecast is interesting because I think of my whole collection, this might be one of the only ones that I had to actually construct it. It came in one of those kits where the car's basically disassembled and you put it together, and it gives you certain things. I think mainly the wheels. It came with 2 or 3 different color or style wheels, and you could basically pick what you wanted. And really, I think the only thing that I actually customized on this car were the wheels, because it didn't come with black wheels. But in my time working with Ferrari, I got the one and only time I've driven a LaFerrari was a yellow car like this one that had black wheels. So while the car was disassembled, I painted the wheels, and I covered the Ferrari logo on the wheel center caps with a Q-tip as best I could. It didn't quite work perfectly, but it for the most part turned out well. And the car that I drove in real life was unfortunately just at parking lot speeds, but I did get to drive it, and it had yellowish elements of the interior like this car does. Obviously the doors on a LaFerrari are very interesting. And the engine on this car is quite impressive. It's got a hybrid powertrain, puts out nearly 1,000 horsepower. And I remember it was interesting putting this model together because I have another LaFerrari, but it's made by, I think, Barago, different diecast manufacturer, and you know, they're similar size and overall very much the same, but certain things were done a little bit differently on this car. I don't remember exactly what they were, but they weren't 100% identical, of course. But it remains even though I didn't get to drive it quickly, it remains the most powerful and fastest car I've ever driven in real life, and the Diecast is a tribute to that. And here we have a car that is famous amongst my friends. This is a Mini Cooper. This is just the regular two-door Cooper version, but it's in tribute to my friend Chris's Clubman, which is, you know, red car with black roof, black wheels, and his car actually has black stripes on it, which I wasn't brave enough to try and do that on this car. Maybe someday I will, but I didn't want to ruin it. But this car started out with a white roof and white mirrors, gray wheels, and it wasn't difficult to modify it. And overall, you know, when you get a little close, you can see it was tough to get the paint exactly perfect around the sunroof. It's I don't know what was going on there, but it got a little bit clumped up, even though I cleaned the surface very well. But overall, it turned out really cool and looks, you know, from a distance exactly like Chris's car does. The interior is a little bit different color. I think this has some gray in it where his is all black. And obviously you got I think it's supercharged motor on these cars. But quick, fun little car. He's had his for many years, and we call the car Big Red. And this is my tribute to that car. And last but not least, what you see here is a couple of C4 Corvettes. I think these models are both technically around, I don't know, 1993. But the maroon colored car is in memory of the one and only C4 Corvette that I've owned to date. And it was a burgundy colored car with beige interior, but you could not get a full beige interior on a C4 Corvette model. This one actually started out, I think it was black or purple, and ended up having to paint the interior to make it look like this. And none of the C4 Corvettes had the tan colored carpeting. You can see it also in the hatch area. When you compare it to this car, which was as close as you could get from the factory, I mean Maisto, the factory, they all had this black carpeting, and in the interior they only had the beige seats and door panels. Now, aside from having to paint the interior of the red Corvette, I also, to make it more realistic with the car that I owned, I changed the engine. So what you see here is the LT1 Corvette V8, which I swapped out from this green car that originally had the LT1, but now is a ZR1. And you can see the motor looks a little different from one to the other. The wheels are the same. Externally, these cars were all meant to be ZR1s, so they don't look 100% accurate to what the LT1 cars look like. A couple little subtle differences, but in the end, I took the maroon ZR1, turned it into an LT1, and the green LT1 became a ZR1. And I'm a big fan of C4 Corvettes. So this particular car here, the burgundy one, means a lot to me because I really enjoyed having that car. Okay, so that's my small group of cars that I've invested a little bit of time and effort in customizing in some way. Definitely nothing too extensive, and I even have a few more cars that I've done various little things. But these are the ones that took the most time and effort, and turned out okay. They're all Maistos. None of these are anything particularly flashy or expensive, but it was fun to customize them a little bit. And hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.